Hello, I'm Sally Gunn. Today's story is The Wild Christmas Reindeer by Jan Brett. She has written the story and she did all the artwork. This is one of her most popular Christmas stories. When Santa asks Teeka, this elf right here, one of his elves, to get the reindeer ready to fly on Christmas Eve, she realizes what a huge job that is, and she's a little afraid. Sometimes that's how I feel too when I try something new. The reindeer have been running wild and free all year on the tundra, and the reindeer do not respond well to her toughness and her strong voice. But then she realizes that a gentle voice and kindness are what's needed. On the sides of each of these pages, you'll see many elves making beautiful presents. If you were naming reindeer, what names would you choose? Let's see how Teeka gets the reindeer Twilight, Tundra, Heather, Bramble, Snowball, Windswept, Lichen and Crag organized to work together to carry Santa around the world on Christmas Eve. The Wild Christmas Reindeer. Teeka was excited and a little afraid. This year, Santa had asked her to get the reindeer ready to fly on Christmas Eve. Teeka had never done this before, and she wanted everything to be perfect. Teeka lived up in the Arctic, in the shadow of Santa's winter farm. The last of the snow geese had flown south, and everyone's mind was on Christmas. The workshop was alive with the sounds of saws sawing, hammers hammering, and brushes painting as they all worked to have the toys and presents ready for delivery on Christmas Eve. December 1st. Teeka knew it was time for her to go in search of the reindeer. They had been out on the tundra, wild and free, since last Christmas, and Teeka was sure that they would not want to go back to Winter Farm to train. She would have to be strong and firm. At last she found them, Bramble and Heather, Windswept and Lichen, Snowball, Crag, Twilight and Tundra. Oh, these elves are making cookies. So are these. And it's December 4th. Teeka took a deep breath and shouted, "Let's go! Move, move, move!" The reindeer were bewildered by Teeka's voice. Their heads went up to see who this loud creature was, but they let her herd them together and headed back toward Winter Farm. Tundra gave her the most trouble. Teeka didn't know that he considered himself the leader and was not used to being bossed around. He liked to stay next to Twilight, but she was separated from him and running near the front. When they got to the barn, Teeka put them in different stalls. Tundra snorted impatiently. It's December 5th. They're making stuffed animals. Here too. By the next morning, when Teeka went into the barn, all the reindeer were restless and upset. Lichen was afraid of Crag, who kept nipping at him. Bramble was so worried she drove Heather wild. And Twilight kept calling out to Tundra, who was just plain angry and stamping his hoofs. Oh, they're knitting beautiful things. And it's December 7th. Teeka groomed each reindeer. She wanted them to look sleek and glossy for Santa. One by one, she brushed and combed their coats and pushed and pulled at their tangled manes. She brushed so long and so hard that their ears started to turn pink. And it's December 8th. They're making dolls. Oh, December 9th, and they're making dolls. Teeka took the reindeer outside. Now she was ready for the real training to begin. Snowflakes danced in the air. as she tried to stand them in 2 lines and put on their harnesses. But they wouldn't stay lined up. She had put Tundra at the back with Heather. Instead of at the front with Twilight. So he kicked out at Heather, who then bolted into Bramble. Teeka scolded the reindeer. "Don't move," she cried, but they all ran off, wild-eyed, and she had to go after them and bring them back. Oh, it's December 11th already, and they're making candy canes. Here too. The next day, Teeka harnessed the reindeer in the barn before taking them out into the snow. Everything went right until she got them lined up outside and tried to steer them first to the left and then to the right. To make the sleigh fly, they would need to pull together smoothly, but everything went wrong. Tundra crashed into Heather. Snowball blew up at Bramble. Windswept knocked over Twilight, and then Lichen locked antlers with Crag. Oh dear. And it's already December 13th. They're getting animals ready. "Stop!" Teeka cried as she watched the reindeer paw the air. "Unhook!" she shouted as they tried to free their long antlers. Then Lichen and Crag fell over into the snow. The harder they pulled, the more their antlers locked. The reindeer were frantic, and Teeka only made it worse by yelling at them. Oh, they're getting toy trains ready here too, and it's December 15th. Tundra and Heather rushed to help. But the antlers did not break free. Windswept nudged at Lichen, and Bramble ran to help Crag. But the more they tried to help, the more they got tangled up themselves. Their necks strained, their muscles bulged, and their antlers did not budge. Teeka wailed, "Oh, please, it's almost Christmas Eve." But the reindeer could not move. A frosty silence hung in the air, and it's December 17th. Teeka looked at the tangled reindeer, once so bold and free, and began to cry. "Oh, it's my fault," she said. "I've spent all my time yelling at you instead of helping. I'm sorry." And one by one, she gave each reindeer a hug. "Tomorrow," she said, "we'll go to work in a new way. No yelling, no screaming, and no bossing, I promise. Let me try to help you get free." Oh, did you ever get an orange in your stocking at Christmas? They're getting the oranges ready here. The reindeer listened to this new voice. Heather's eyes sparkled. Crag cracked a reindeer grin. Bramble giggled, and Snowball sighed. Tundra laughed, and Twilight smiled. The more they laughed, the more they shook, and as they shook, their antlers rattled and rubbed. And before Teeka could do anything, she heard a spring, sprung, spring, sprung sound. It was the antlers jiggling free. Oh boy, it's December 21st, and they're taking down books to get ready to give to children, and instruments ready. December 22nd, they're wrapping gifts. Quietly, Teeka led the reindeer back to the barn. She sleeked their coats. She gently brushed their ears and combed out their manes. Tundra nuzzled her cheek. It's December 23rd. Oh, she has one more day. The next day, the reindeer lined up in 2 lines, ready for the harness, with Twilight and Tundra leading the line. They practiced turning left and they practiced turning right. Teeka directed them softly. Tundra pulled for Twilight. Bramble was gentle to Lichen. Windswept helped Heather, and Snowball nestled against Crag. Together they practiced long and hard. They didn't notice that it was getting dark, and they almost didn't hear a jingle in the distance. It was Santa, standing by the sleigh, piled high with presents and ready to go. It's December 24th. Look at all of the elves looking. Now the reindeer were ready too, and Teeka led them to the sleigh. Santa smiled and nodded his thanks. Then he climbed aboard and waved to Teeka, who watched as the wild reindeer rose up together and carried the sleigh off into the night. Ah, job well done, Teeka. Merry Christmas. And there goes Santa. I hope you liked that. I thought it was a good story.